This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
In progress.
Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Abam. We're starting a new Miktsaya today. Siman Memvav Hilchos Birchas Hashachar Ushar Brachos. Let us begin. Sif Aleph. Dina Birchas Hashachar. Kishayeyar Mishnasai. When you wake up from your slumber. So you see it's the Hashgacha Pratis. We know the message of Tkiyah Shofar is Uru Yeshena Mishinazchem. So Rosh Chodesh Elul, the Mechaber tells us, Kishayeyar Mishinasai, when you wake up from your sleep, Yoimar Elokai Neshama. You should say Elokai Neshama. You know, it's very interesting. The Gemara doesn't really speak about Negavaser. It's not really discussed in the Gemara. Maida'ani is certainly not discussed in the Gemara. What's the reason for that? Because in the times of the Gemara, they were on a much higher level. So as soon as they got up, they said Elokai Neshama. They were in a state that they could already make a bracha. But nowadays, so we have a certain tumah, you can't say Hashem's name. They had to compose a tefillah that doesn't have Hashem's name, but it's a later addition. Anyway, Kishayar Mishnasa Yamar Elokai Neshama. Kishayishma Kol HaTarnagal. When you hear the sound of the rooster, Yivarech Hanoisein Lasech Vivina. Kishaloivesh Yivarech Malbish Arumim. Kishayaniach Yodav Aleinav. When you put your hands on your eyes, Yivarech Poikeach Ivrim. Hashem opens up, gives sight to the blind. Kishayeshev Yivarech Mater Asurim. When you sit, Hashem releases the bound. Kishazoikev. When you stand erect, Yivarech Zoikev Kefufim. Kishayaniach Raglav Ba'aretz. Yivarech Roika Ha'aretz Al Hamoyim. Kishanoyel Minalav Yivarech Sha'asali Kol Tzarki. Kishahoylech Yivarech Hamechim Etzadei Gaver. When you walk, that Hashem firms the footsteps of man. Kishachoyger Chagurai Yivarech Oizer Yisol B'Gvura. When you put on your belt, you say Hashem girds Israel with strength. Haga Oiloi Veisho Avneit Hamavsik Ben Liba Le'erva. Whether it's the belt or if it's the waist line of the undergarment. Kishamesim koiva oy mitznavs, when you put on a hat or a turban, barosh yivarach oiter yisol b'sefara. He girds Israel with splendor. Kishayitol yadav yivarach al natil sidayim. Kishayirchatz panav, when you wash your face, yivarach hama'aver sheina me'inai v'chulu v'hiratzayin v'chulu ad baruchat Hashem goimel chasadim tovim li'amo Yisrael. Ein la'ano yisal me'inachar ma'aver sheina me'inai. The listener does not answer Amen afterwards. Ad sheyachtem hagoimel chasadim tovim la'amo Yisrael shahakol bracha achasi. Says the Mishna Berura, Kishayar b'chulu kol habracha se'elu hu mishum da'asur loy la'adam le'hanois min ha'olam hazeh b'li bracha. All of these brachos is because it is asur to benefit from this world without a blessing. I would not have said that. I would have said these are not Birchas HaNehanin, these are Birchas HaShavach. The reason why a person makes Malbish Harum, let's say someone doesn't have clothing, he still makes Malbish Harumim. Let's say we still make Sha'asali Kol Tzarki on Tisha B'Av. Why? Because it's not a bracha on your specific Hana. It's a Birchas Hashvach that Hashem created this. It's very interesting. But it seems like the Mishna Berura is learning that there is, I don't think this could be the only element of Birchas Hashachar, but there's a dominant element of Birchas Hashachar that is the Birchas HaNehanin. The Mishna Berura then quotes the Ramu Kradade, the famous Siurim Sukkim, Ksiv Lashem. Now the Mishna Berura said, V'chal HaNehanin min ha'olam hazeh b'lei bracha yilu ma'al. The Ramu Kradade, Ksiv Lashem ha'aretz u'mlaya. It says the world belongs to God. U'chsiv ha'aretz nasan l'bnei adam, and He gave it to man. V'tirtzu loy kasha, kan koydem bracha, kan la'achar bracha. Right, so loymar, meaning to say, koydem bracha hi Lashem, before a blessing it belongs to God. Va'asurim l'chatz asur to you kehektish shehu Hashem v'yachar bracha, and after the blessing hutar hakol v'nei adam. V'imkein, if so, kiven shekoydim habracha hi Hashem, if before a blessing belonged to God, hari hakol kodesh Hashem, it's sanctified to Him. V'yesh ba me'ilah imnena mimeno. There is misappropriation if you get hana from it. Kamay b'truma shi kodesh. Lefikach tiknu chachamenu zal bracha al kol davar v'davar me'an hagas ha'olam sha'adam nena mimeno. You know what? I never realized this in my whole life. It sounds like that in the morning. See, we're not even noyeg. Not only are we not noyeg that it's Birchas Hananen, but we don't even make the bracha when we open our eyes. We don't even make the bracha when we put our hands on our eyes. But it sounds like if somebody were to go a day without making Pakeach Ivrim, besides missing the bracha, they're over on Me'ilah. How do you have a right to be nene al yedei re'iyah without a bracha? How do you have a right to be nene from your clothing without a bracha? How do you have a right to be nene from your shoes without a bracha? There definitely is an element of Birchas HaNehanin in all of these brachas. By the way, once we're on the topic, there's a Orach Chaim HaKadosh that does not appear in any of the writings of the Orach Chaim. This is a rare chiddush that does not in the entire Sefer Orach Chaim HaKadosh, but it comes from the Orach Chaim HaKadosh, because the Chidah says he heard it from his Rebbe. The Orach Chaim HaKadosh says that he cannot understand the kasha of the Gemara Brachas. What's the stira? The world belongs to God, and then it says, and the world God gave to man. Exactly, it belongs to God and He gave it to man. What's the stira? It belongs to God and He gave it to us. So what's the stira of the Gemara? The Gemara's kasha, stira. One pasuk says it belongs to God, one pasuk says He gave it to man. Yeah, it's like the Minchas Chinuch that you bought in the store and then you gave it to the Bar Mitzvah kid. So you owned it and then you gave it to him. So what exactly is the stira? So Orach Chaim HaKadosh said, wondrous chidush. Orach Chaim HaKadosh said, the Chidah quotes, that how could God give it to us? But we're avadim. We're Chumash kana eved kana rabbi. So I understand if it belonged to God and the only reason we have it is because He gave it to us, but we don't have a yad. Chumash kana Eved Kana Rabbi. Must be, says Orach Chaim HaKadosh, that by making a bracha we have a din of a ben. So the Gemara's kasha is, how could Hashem give it to man? But Kamasha Kana Eved Kana Rabbi. And the answer is, Al Yedei Bracha, we attain the status of Banam Lamakim, so now we're able to be kaina all of these things. That's what the Chidah brings from, he heard from his Rebbe, Orach Chaim HaKadosh. Okay, anyway, Mishnasai. When you wake up from your sleep, it says in Mishna Berura, Davka Seif Shnasai. The end of your sleep. So you wake up at 2 a.m., you don't say that bracha. The Dirshu brings, let's say somebody gets up after Chatzos, he gets up 2 a.m., he has in mind to go back to sleep, Shinas Keva. So the Mishna Berura says later on in some Mem Zayin that you could make all the Birchas Hashachar and you don't have to make it again in the morning, except for Elokai Neshama. That he says, Elokai Neshama, you say Beli Chasima, and Maver Sheina you say without Hashem's name, and B'diavad if you said it B'chasim V'Askras Hashem, you don't make it again in the morning. So in other words, you can make all the Birchas Hashachar the first time you get up, only Elokai Neshama Maver Sheina the second time you get up. Fine. Says Mishna Berura Sivkat and Gimel Yom Elokai Neshama Tzarech Lahafsik Ma'at Bein Elokai LeNeshama Kedei Shelo Yeh Nishma Shaneshama Hi Eloi Kav Chasav. You don't say Elokai Neshama. You say Elokai Neshama Shenasa Tabi Toirahi. V'dinei Birchas Elokai Neshama Ayin Le'el B'Siman Vav V'Mishna Berura Sivkat Yud Beis La Sechvi. What does it mean? Hanoi saying La Sechvi Vina. Either Halev Nikra Sechvi B'Lashon HaMikra. Either the heart is called Sechvi in the language of the written law. So the question is the bracha Hanoisein or Asher Nasan? The Gemara says Asher Nasan. The Gra says Asher Nasan. The Torah and the Shulchan Aruch say Hanoisein. Now all the brachos are Lashon Hoive. The Gra famously holds except for the first one. If you look in the Gra, I think in the Imrei Noyam, the Gra says, it comes from the Pasuk in Sefer Eiv, that were you around Eiv when I gave intellect to the rooster to know the difference between day and night? And since it comes from that Pasuk, and that Pasuk is Lashon Avar, therefore we maintain the Lashon Avar. That's the opinion of the Vilna Gaon. All the brachas are Lashon Hoive, except for Asher Nasan Lasach Vivina. That was always very powerful to me. Because in other words, what's the first bracha you make in the morning? First bracha makes something you wake up in the morning, I don't understand, why this like that, why is like that? You have all these questions on life. The first thing you say, you have to remember what Hashem told Eiv. Have you been around from the beginning of time? All the cheshbonos. Before you make any bracha in the morning, you have to understand the world's been around for thousands of years without you. The Rebbe Hashem has a long cheshbon. The famous story with Rabbi Chanan. A guy comes into the shul, he doesn't understand why this Pliny gets an aliyah, why that Pliny got an aliyah, and this big tzaddik doesn't get an aliyah. He goes to the Gabbai says, I don't understand. Last week he got an aliyah, and the week before the other guy an aliyah. And these other guys haven't gotten an aliyah in 7 years. You have a kasha, you're a guest, you have a kasha, why? About this, about the cheshbonos. So the same thing, the first bracha we make is we remember what HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Eiv. Were you around when I was Nasan Sechvi to the Tarnagal? Okay. Oy d'chsiv oy mi Nasan la Sechvi vina. V'halev hu hamevin. The heart is the one who understands. V'ayidei habina adam avchin ben yom uvein laila. Mevnei shahatarnagal mevin gam kein zeh. Because the Tarnagal also understands it. V'gam yesh b'shmiyasei l'adam anah. And by hearing the rooster, you also have a benefit. She'yadeh shukav, the day is coming. Uve'arvi karin l'Tarnagal sechvi. Lachi tiknu brachazu b'shmiyas kol ha-Tarnagal. You hear this? It is wrong to think that the bracha means asher nasan la sechvi. The sechvi is referring to the rooster. The sechvi does not refer to the rooster. It refers to you. If you're a rooster, then it works out very good. But most people are not roosters. According to the Mishna Berura, Sechvi is the lave. And we're thanking Hashem that He gave us the ability to differentiate between day and night. But because the rooster has this understanding, and when we hear the rooster, it's a benefit for us, and it happens to be in Arabic, the Tarnagal is called the Sechvi, therefore when you hear the Tarnagal, it triggers this bracha. But not to think two pshatim, Sechvi either means you or the rooster. It means one thing, it means you. It means your lave. That's what it means, according to the Mishna Berura. Malbesh arumim lav davka sheyashin arim. It's not only if somebody sleeps arim. Elakim shalom loivish malbesh alien shalom mevarach brachazo. It's when you put on the upper robe. The Dirsha brings the fact that the Shulchan Aruch says you put on your clothing even though you didn't wash your hands. The Magen Avram brings a raya, you're allowed to touch your clothing before Negel Vaser. Not like the Seder Hayoim who says not to touch it. The Mishna Berura there says, he brings the Seder Hayoim, and he brings to the Magen Avram. The Magen Avram is not mashma. In other words, al pidino de Gemara, there's no issur to touch your clothing before Negel Vaser. When you put your hands in your eyes, aleina perish aidei hachalak, doesn't mean straight on your eyes. The Aser lahaniach yadav aleinav kaidem anatila kamashikal sasem and daled. So I would have learned this a little differently. I would have learned this. We already know when you get up in the morning, you wash your hands 3 times. That's even before anything, and that's not mentioned in the Seif. Then you say Lekai Neshama, and you say Anosin Lasachvi, and you make Ma'avash Arumim, and now you could put your hands on your eyes, and you could say Plekei Achivrim. And then, at the end of everything, when you're ready to daven Shachris, you make an Atil Yadayim. But maybe it's talking about, see, the Mishna Berura is gripping the Mechaber that you didn't wash Negel Vaser yet. But, okay. We'll hold it over here. Rabbi Yisai, have a wonderful Shabbos. Agun Chaydash. Yashikach to Rabbi Yeager for giving the Dvar Halacha this week. Shkayach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.